Good evening and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night for July 2nd, 2019. It is approximately 7:07 p.m. If we please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All of council is in attendance this evening. Before we go to our citizens' remarks and comments, we're going to start with a presentation about our upcoming Community Day. We have Ernie Groover and Debbie Izok from the Monroeville Foundation to talk about our event on July 27th. So, welcome, folks.
Thank you, Mayor Griesok. I think mostly everyone on council know who I am by now. I'm Ernie Groover, president of the Monroeville Foundation, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about our upcoming event on Saturday, July 27th, the second annual Monroeville Community Day. As you may be aware, a lot of communities here in the Pittsburgh area has community days from Rankin to Duquesne to Braddock. They all have community days, and we were fortunate enough to have partners with Allegheny Health Network, Forbes Hospital, and Highmark in developing the community day for Monroeville. Last year was a very, very successful community day. We had over 2,500 people attend, and we're looking for that and even more this year. Thank you for your participation, the things that you've done to help us make this day a reality. We're going to start the day off with a 5K walk and run. We have the actual community day itself going on from 11 a.m. till about 7 p.m. And
sir?
Yes.
You can turn your posters the other way. I can take the camera and
oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's good. So we have an exciting day lined up. We end the day with a concert, and I'm going to let Debbie Izok tell you a little bit more about the concerts. And before I leave here, for the audience, I have some reminder cards that I can give out. Hopefully all the young people and old people can attend. It's a family-oriented affair, and once again, everyone's invited, and hopefully all the council come out and see all the things that are going on.
Good marketing, Ernie.
Yes.
Debbie, welcome.
Thank you. Debbie Izok, and thank you, Mayor, members of council, Municipal Manager Little, for allowing us to speak tonight. And as Ernie said, we are really very excited. The event has really taken off, and of course, the name, I believe, says a lot about what we are trying to really accomplish and achieve. And we're looking for the unity within our community and bringing together all of our neighbors, our residents, our friends, and the business community, and everything that represents, all the good that represents here in Monroeville will be part of this event. So I think one of the most gratifying parts of last year's event was when I was walking around and I saw somebody on their phone and they said, "You gotta come up to the park. You wouldn't believe what's going on." And that just resonated with me. And like Ernie said, we had over 2,500 people. So there's something at the event for everyone from the 5K. It's not just a run, it is also a family walk. And we do hope that people will go to the foundation website, monroevillefoundation.org, and register and come on out as a family. It'll be a great party for the walk run, which will officially kick off at 9 o'clock. There's an early morning party for that starting at 8 and then ending as soon as the last walkers and runners come in with a DJ and music and food, and of course an awards ceremony for the top runners with speeds in each of the age categories. And everyone who registers for the run in time will also get an event day 5K run t-shirt with that. The event then rolls over to the opening at 11 o'clock with Community Day. We have a full lineup of entertainment, both roving entertainment, face painters, jugglers, stilt walkers, performances going on. And of course, all of the businesses will be out. There will be food trucks there, and the crowning part, end of the event, will start at 5 o'clock with Pittsburgh's very own American Idol contestant from 2019, Nate Walker.
Way to go, Debbie.
Way to go. It was, so Nate is coming to our community. Nate is from Homestead, and he has been out to the park with his manager, and what he said to me was, this is a better stage, this is a better deal than what Gabby had when she came back. So we hope and we invite everyone to come out, tell your friends, join us. So members of council, we have some flyers. We ask, I will email you.
Oh, I have mine sitting on my counter.
I will email each of you with the JPEG flyer so that if you are willing to share that out on your social media,
some of the
we would
people
love
may
to
want
do that.
We
And
want
for those of you that are here tonight, we invite you to come join us for a great event on July 27th.
One last thing before we leave. We've worked really hard to put this community day together, and one of the benefits of raising this money is that the Monroeville Foundation is chartered to benefit the community. So if you have a worthwhile project in your community, or if your organization has a project or something that you need money for, we're here to help that particular project. At the community day, we'll have a booth. Come to our booth, apply for a grant, and hopefully we can help you with your organization or with your project. So a lot of people, when I talk to them here in Monroeville, say, well, I don't really know what you do. So we're going to have big flags up that says Monroeville Foundation, apply for a grant, and if you feel generous, we need your donation as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you there.
Thank you. Counting on that.
Okay, we're going to move over to our Citizens Night portion. This is our time for remarks and comments. We have some new faces in the audience, so we can, if I could just briefly run through how these things work here. Tonight is our Citizens Night meeting. It's also our council work session. We don't vote this evening. There are no votes taken on our Citizens Night or our work session. This is a time for residents, Monroeville taxpayers, to make comment or remarks to council on any municipal subject matter whatsoever. This would be your time. This is our work session in the Citizens Night. We always ask for a 5-minute time limit for your comments. We feel that's the most, that's the best way to kind of keep a meeting going and be productive, and also to get your point across. Certainly, if you feel as if that's not enough time, you can get the contact information for your council person or myself or Mr. Little before you leave. There will also be, 1 week from today, on our regular council meeting on July 9th, next Tuesday, that is when we vote on the items that we're going to be discussing this evening. Prior to that meeting, there will also be a comment period where the same rules apply. You would have 5 minutes to speak. However, at that point, you could only speak about items that are actually on the agenda and what we're going to be voting on for that evening. We will go through that meeting next Tuesday, vote. At the end of that meeting, you would have another opportunity to speak about any municipal item whatsoever. Okay? So this evening, we're going to open it for citizens' remarks and comments. You can talk about anything, like I said. 5-minute time limit. I'm going to ask council to afford everyone their 5 minutes and try to not interrupt speakers as they're talking. And then hopefully, if there is any, we'll move along with all the speakers here this evening. If council needs to interject anything, or if staff needs to interject anything or answer any questions, I would ask that they do that at the end of the comment period so we can get all of the comments going. Okay? So we have a list here of people that have signed in. And if you haven't signed in, that's no problem. You'll have an opportunity to, as we move through the meeting, if you want to say something, it'll be your right. We will not close that portion until everyone has an opportunity to speak.
Should we not?
Okay.
Some of the business.
So first we have Georgiana Woodhall.
There was someone before me.
Well, Debbie Izok was already signed in, but we're moving right along.
Okay. Good evening, Georgiana Woodhall. I just wanted to
hand this authorization to enter form from PennDOT into you. I know I asked for, I said that I would give you a copy of it in reference to the property.
Is this that letter we talked about?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I respect Mr. Ratcher's opinion on the road on that. And I also wanted to hand this to Mr. Little. This is the.
I'm sorry, Georgia, if you just go back. I'll give it, take, and then explain it, because the microphones won't pick you up.
All right, okay. That's the pamphlet that I read that was sent to me by a company, Energy Transfer, and mentioned about the Sunoco gas line. I wanted Mr. Little to have a copy of it. He said that they had not received one. I received it, and I'm not sure if anybody else received it. So I'm going to give up my 3 minutes for the rest of the evening tonight, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brody Bernardi.
These poor business people have to sit here. We should have put that.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You just state your name for the record, I know it.
Brody Bernardi, Monroeville resident. I'm here to talk about Bel Air and the closing of it, or proposed closing of it. After last week or a few weeks ago, there was a bit of confusion as to what actually was going on with the property. My interpretation of everything I heard was that the property, the Turnpike does want it, and that their eminent domain wasn't ever mentioned, but I think it's just sort of in the background. My biggest goal in tonight and at the council meeting is for any proceeds from that, the sale of that property, to be held and used in the Parks Department. You're closing a park and a public pool, and I think it's only appropriate that that money gets reinserted back into the parks and possibly another public pool. It's an asset to the community that you may or may not be aware of, and if we're going to get rid of an asset like that and begin to, this money will never come back again. You'll never have an opportunity to spend money like this again on the Parks Department, and I think it's appropriate that that money stay in the park system in one way or another. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. Eliza Beck?
Hi, Alyssa Beck, Trotwood Drive.
Alyssa, I apologize. I mispronounced your name.
So the first thing I'm going to do is read a letter from some elders in our community who can no longer be present. Charles Kubit Sr. and Virginia Kubit at 206 Alpine Village Drive, and Eric F. Kubit in Garden City on Snowball Drive. To members of Monroeville Council, we understand that the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission is planning to purchase the Bel Air Municipal Pool property to expand its road. We would like to know if the Municipality of Monroeville plans to relocate the pool, which has been a popular destination for our tax-paying citizens for many years. If not, where would you suggest we provide our youth and elders a pleasant and safe venue for summertime activity? Has our evening and weekend evening swim vanished forever from concerned Monroeville taxpayers, and I've mentioned their names? P.S. It is my understanding that Bel Air Pool would have been able to operate through 2020. Is this true? Also, has this anything to do with the mineral rights? Who owns them? We can't help but feel lied to. Please be better. And I'm going to hand this in, that's handwritten from the elders. I wanted to bring up a few issues. One is if you have the answer to who owns the gas rights underneath the pool property at every layer. Were you able to find that out since last month's meeting? Anybody? Did anybody look into it?
We did, we're still exploring that.
And who are you exploring it with?
Mr. Ratcher?
We're doing a title search, and we're exploring to determine when those rights were severed, if they were, or if not. We don't believe we own the rights, but we think we can confirm that.
And you would tell us who owns them?
Yeah, if that information is available to us, we'll find out who owns
And how long does that take approximately?
Well, I'm still trying to get the documents back from the county, so that's kind of a wild card. I expect to probably have the documents back, I would say within a week to 10 days, given that we're in the holiday period here.
The other question is, do you know what the gas company is doing on Route 22, where they were asking for what you first said, Mr. Ratcher, was an easement at last Citizens Night, and then somebody changed their mind and said they didn't need an easement, but that Mr. Little had the opportunity to make that decision for the citizens of the municipality to let People's Gas cross our property to replace a gas line. I'm wondering about if you explored what it is exactly about that gas line? What infrastructure is being put underneath the road?
I think it's at a very old existing gas line. Paul, you can help with this because I know you or your department had some conversations with them. And I think they needed the physical ability to walk across some of our property to get to the gas line. That was all they needed.
So if we didn't want them to walk across their property for whatever reason, we would have the right to say no?
Well, they could probably, under the Public Utility Code, then just do so without any courtesy, and we couldn't stop it, so.
Probably?
Yeah, they do have, no, they have rights under the Public Utility Code. What they typically try to do is say, hey, can we do this, instead of just doing it. But they do have the rights. They can get to that line with or without our consent.
Okay.
And Dr. Beck, I'm sorry, Mr. Hugus, if you could move on with your comments so we make sure you get your 5 minutes. That way we're not interrupting you. If you want to go through your comments, and then we can answer your questions once you're completed with your comments.
Okay. My name is Dr. Alyssa Beck. I'm a healthcare practitioner. Most of you up here know that. And I have been for my career. And I've worked for my career with children and adults that have learning-related visual issues that are on the ADD to autism spectrum often. This is exploding. Cancer is exploding. Ewing sarcomas are exploding in southwestern Pennsylvania. I'm extremely concerned with the health and well-being of the residents of southwest Pennsylvania. And I'm extremely concerned that fracking is at our door. Well pads have been confirmed 4/10 of a mile, actually, from where Bel Air Pool exists. And if we do not put proper setbacks in place and light and noise pollution requirements into our oil and gas ordinance, then if everybody in the room doesn't move from Monroeville within the next year or two, then we would all be remiss because we would be putting ourselves in a situation of extreme pollution. And so I am asking with all due respect that you reconsider visiting our oil and gas ordinance, which is not, in my humble but really, on some levels, expert opinion that I'm not charging anybody here for. I would ask you to reconsider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Malia Clemens?
My name is Malia Clemens, and I will be speaking on behalf of the Bel Air swim team and the Bel Air community pool. The Bel Air community pool should not be given up for the Turnpike because of the following reasons. This property is way too important to the citizens of Monroeville for socializing, having fun, and exercise. Being a member of the pool myself, I know how much the pool contributes to the community. It gives teenagers opportunities to swim, to teach swim lessons, and have a job during the summer. Bel Air also gives young children the chance to learn and swim with the swim lessons being held at the pool. I am also a member of the Bel Air swim team. The friendships that I have made only in the past 2 years of being a part of the swim teams are friendships that I know will last. Respectfully, if the pool is being taken away, those friendships will soon come to an end, not just for me, for the whole swim team. In 2 years, I have realized that the swim team is more like a family, not just a team. On another point, I have mentioned that I have only been a part of Bel Air for 2 years, including this summer. I would be so upset to see Bel Air go away after just 2 years. I can't imagine how the people who have been members longer than me feel about the pool closing. On another hand, the swim team has held a multi-year championship. Please don't take that away from the swim team. In conclusion to my letter, please consider keeping Bel Air open to the public. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job, Malia. We have Aaliyah, is it Rezianne?
Yeah, good. Very good.
You okay? All
Yeah,
right.
very good.
Hello, my name is Aaliyah Rossian, and I am a 4-time champion swimmer from Bel Air Pool. I love Bel Air. I have been coming here basically my whole life. I have been on the swim team since I was 6, and coming to Bel Air is the reason why I started swimming. I feel like Bel Air could stay open for at least 2 more years because it will take the turnpike a long time to widen it. Why can't we just make another community pool? Because a lot of families probably can't afford to go to a private pool. I have a lot of great memories at Bel Air, and so do a lot of other people. Don't close Bel Air. Just move it to a new spot, and then a lot of families will be happy. I don't know why it has to close because it barely touches the property. I am very glad that I got to swim at Bel Air. Please don't close the pool. Thank you.
Very good. Rand Warsaw.
Hi, my name is Rand Warsaw. I've known many of you for too many years. Not being disrespectful, but I'm getting up there in years. I moved to Monroeville in 1980 and have lived here continuously since 1985. My first experience with Bel Air Swim Club and the Monroeville Pool was in 1991. So I'm a longtime person. I've been involved in Monroeville baseball, Monroeville soccer, and Bel Air. And I can count on one finger the other times I've been here, and that was for Monroeville soccer. So this is something that's very important to me. Moving to Monroeville and deciding to raise a family in Monroeville, a municipal pool was a key consideration. I can afford to join a swim club. I choose to join a municipal pool because I prefer the atmosphere. There are many residents here who cannot afford a membership at a club, and they do pay as you go into the community pool. Taking away Bel Air and saying, well, we have community pools is not an equivalent in my mind. It just is not. It wasn't for me, even though I could afford to join a club when I moved to Monroeville. Some people don't have the luxury of making that choice. That's one of the 2 points I wanted to make tonight. The second point is I'm a businessman. And I've never been involved in an eminent domain case, but I know something about it. And there's a concept in the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution that says that if an entity takes your land or your property, the person whose property, in that case would be a municipality, is entitled to equivalent and just compensation for it. There's a pool sitting on that property. An equivalent justification is not just book value, a depreciated value. It could be thought of it in one way, it could be book value. It can be full replacement value, somewhere between. It can be the acquisition value of an asset. And so what I'm saying is, in an eminent domain case, I feel, as all of you represent us, that you get fair and equivalent value and build an equivalent pool. That's all I ask. I want to cede my time to other speakers, and I want to thank you for hearing my points. And it's really nice to see some of you people again. And I got some new faces I'd like to meet. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brian Susko.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Johns. Good to see you. Council, I thank you for your time. I'll do my best to stay within 5 minutes. I may need to borrow one from somebody if that's okay, but I will keep it to the limit here. So after speaking with Kevin Search, the lead engineer from the expansion project from the Turnpike, the information I got was the appraisal came back for about $956,000, and the sale is planned to be finalized in September of this year. However, in 2019, the funding for the project was actually canceled by the Turnpike, and it's going to be revisited on an annual basis. So at the same time, the Turnpike's been very clear in their email communications that they are not threatening eminent domain. Is that a true statement, or is that a false statement?
That's what you
True
stated.
statement. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear because a couple of my points are on that, and I'd like to not talk about it. So basically, as it stands today, the Turnpike Commission, they're going to probably approve funding in the near future. So it could be in 2020, it could be in 2025 or later, we're not sure. But until they do approve the project and have the means to implement the plan, the question I have is why would we sell the land earlier than we have to? The main reason is we're talking obviously financial reasons. It's been stated that Monroeville would like to use the funds for paving projects to help our aging infrastructure. Infrastructure is a valid concern of any municipality. Trust me, I understand that. However, in my opinion, the sale of the land isn't the answer to that problem. To explain in a little more detail, in 2014, Mr. Little recommended to the council the Capital Improvement Program, which transfers $1 million from the general fund to the Capital Improvement Fund on an annual basis for 5 years. The same year, a tax increase of 1.569 mils was implemented, bringing in a steady revenue stream of an additional $3.3 million. That was the first large tax increase in 20 years, but a necessary evil. Unfortunately, to step on the sale of the sewage company in 2002, previous councils got into the habit of using those excess funds from that sale, which is over $12 million, to balance the budget at the end of each fiscal year. Mr. Little, to your credit, you did what you had to do in order to sustain the financial strength of the municipality as long as you could. However, have you stated in the budget documents, I apologize, balancing the annual budget with the revenue from the sales of the sewage company in 2002 is not a solid financial plan, which I'm paraphrasing your words, but I think we can all understand that part. In 2016, the budget report stated that the only solution to our failing infrastructure is an adequate, steady revenue stream. In 2017 and 2018, it was strongly recommended by Mr. Little that a 1 mil tax increase be approved to bring in an additional $2.3 million of steady revenue to help our aging infrastructure. The tax increase was not approved, so in 2018, we only paved 2.8 miles of road. To keep pace, according to the documents, we should have paved 7 to keep up to date. Again, 2017 and 2018 budgets state that the solution to the infrastructure problem is, again, a new steady revenue stream. Now, throughout 2018 and 2019, Monroeville focused on 3 areas to help the financial situation, including the general fund, which was collecting past due taxes, including business taxes, deferring the hiring of personnel, including police officers, and staying within the budget on other items. This worked well to the point in 2019 was the first time in 2 years that Mr. Little did not recommend raising the taxes by 1 mil. On top of that, the $1 million transferred from the general fund was earmarked for paving only, and that was to catch up for past year's limitations. This tells me a few things. Mr. Little is actually doing a very good job working within the constraints of an existing budget without a new revenue stream. Even without a new revenue stream, he has stabilized the budget for the time being. He sees what we're doing as a temporary fix, and I'm paraphrasing and quoting my own thoughts there. And he knows the answer, as stated, is an adequate, steady revenue stream. So as stated currently in the budget documents, it's not a solid financial plan for the future. The only solution for our infrastructure problem is, once again, a new steady stream of adequate revenue. A one-time amount of $956,000 based on the appraisal amount for the sale of the land, according with Bel Air Poll, is not the solution for the overall problem as stated. It's really a Band-Aid on a broken arm. The only form of adequate, steady revenue stream, as I see it today, unfortunately, is reinstating the recommendation of raising taxes by at least 1 mil. The only way Monroeville gets a new, steady revenue stream is through this means, as I see it right now. And I'm afraid that holding off on the 1 mil's increase won't last for much longer. You can't fake numbers, and the numbers are showing only solution to solve this problem in reality could be a tax hike. It seems what we've come close to exhausting other means. With all of that said, if we sell the land and use it for paving roads, next year we'll be sitting here and we'll have about 5 miles of new paved road when we use the money, and that's using fuzzy math based on the budgets of previous years. We'll be sitting here with the same infrastructure problems as this year. We'll have higher taxes, but now there will be no community pull and the sale of an asset that's been destroyed. We'd lose that asset and have the exact same problems as we do today. So the sale of the land is not a steady source of revenue. So I'm asking the council consider setting aside money for the sale that becomes final and for use for a new community pool area. There were plans discussed in the past about a Monroeville Park area for the pool. And speaking of Monroeville Park, the park is one of the nicest places in Monroeville. It's fantastic. It has state-of-the-art ball fields, picnic space, walking trails, soccer fields, which my daughter plays for the U6 Monroeville Raptors. The park came with a $5 million investment that actually came from the sale of the sewage company in 2002. That was over $12.6 million, if I'm quoting correctly. So if we're looking at other means for the community pool, money is always part of the equation. So one idea would be considering is the DCNR actually has grants to help with funding of community pools. In 2018, Brentwood got a grant for about $687,000 to put towards a community pool. So once again, using fuzzy math, if we take the sale of the land and work with the DCNR for funding, we're close to that $2 million already, and I understand this is all just speculation at this point. Another way would be sponsorships. For example, we have two of the largest healthcare companies in the area competing for community support, and reaching out to them for sponsorships would be a viable alternative for the entire project. I know these are all easier said than done, but these are viable solutions, and I will wrap up, I promise. So as it stands today, it seems there's no legal reason Monroeville has to sell the land to the Turnpike Commission this year. And with the budget constraints and the need for a new steady revenue stream to really solve the aging infrastructure problem, there's no financial reason to sell the land to the Turnpike either, as the real solution to the problem is a sustained revenue stream, has been quoted with the budget documentation. So the community pool is one of the options that we have here for low-income families. Groups that use it are groups of special needs. The School of the Deaf has an outing there every year, daycare groups. And according to Representative Brandon Markosik, Monroeville offers Cadillac services when it comes to the communities and the public offerings that we have, and other communities really want to copy us. And the sale of a public space like that in a community pool would detriment that view that other communities have on us. And as stated in the budget report, the worry of the failing infrastructure would lower home values and cause families to leave or not come in the first place. So it seems like the sale to solve the infrastructure problem that wouldn't solve the infrastructure problem would still be causing the same problem that we're trying to solve. So in 2017, the comprehensive annual financial report, as it was stated. You could wrap it up,
Brian, please.
I will. And
other speakers.
The population growth of folks of the age 20 to 34 grew by 7% over the past 5 years, with an expected growth of 8% by 2020. With this demographic comes young families and children that would benefit from the community pool, and the loss of such a resource would deter them from coming here at all. So it really, in the end, what I'm really trying to say is the solution to selling the land and putting it into the infrastructure is a temporary Band-Aid that I think if we're looking at the numbers, it's not going to solve the problem and we're just going to come back. So I urge you to really think about taking the money from the sale of the land when and if it happens. If it could be held off by until next year, that would give us the time to look into DCNR grants, to look at sponsorships, and then I would also urge you to keep those funds into a separate account where we can spend time to figure out what we want to do with those funds in the future. And I apologize for going over time. I thank you for your time.
Candace Bruno.
Thank you very much. I'm Candace Bruno. I'm a resident. Hi. People were talking about the pool and just saying that the pool's here. I just wanted to speak about the pool and the things that it does for our community. I'm a member of the Monroeville Community Pool. My son swims on the swim team, so this is pretty important to my family. The Monroeville Community Pool enriches the area in so many ways. This summer, the pool employs 17 young adults ranging from 14 to 22 years of age. For most, this is their first experience being employed, and for all of them, it's pretty much their last summer job before they set off into the real world. Most of the times, they are role models for our young swimmers. They then go off to become police officers, nurses, engineers. We have an occupational therapist that is working at the pool also. While they're there, they have positive relationships with our young kids. They want their turn to sit in the chair someday. My son is looking forward to someday being a lifeguard or working at the concession stand. Unlike some of the other private pools, you do not have to be a member of the pool to work there. You just have to fill out an application. Last year, there were about 35 parties that were scheduled at the pool. This includes birthday parties, graduation parties, and even church picnics. Some families just rent the shaded picnic grove for an afternoon for their families. There were also 10 after-hour parties where the pool was rented from 8 until 11 o'clock at night. There are volleyball courts where kids play volleyball together in the sand. And there are already 20 parties booked for this season. And people were calling today when I was there. During the day, you can see many groups of young people gathered. The Monroeville Parks and Recreation's Touch the Earth Day Camp spends every Friday at the pool swimming with their peers. Their parents drop them off and pick them up directly from the pool. The pool is also a gathering place for Camp Chippewa and has been for many years. I know that there are people who have retired teachers, long since retired teachers, who took Camp Chippewa students there. Camp Chippewa is a summer camp for kids ranging from 6 to 21 who have mental or physical impairments. The Supporting Hands Learning Center, located in Monroeville Mall, brings approximately 25 children and 4 adults to the pool at least 3 times a week. They normally come Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays, but since it was 90 degrees today, they were there today also. They had so much fun playing in the pool. The pool also hosts the So Long Summer Camp and the American Red Cross's Learn to Swim programs. The outside community also uses the pool to host fundraisers, such as the Little Fox Toby's Foundation that brings awareness to SIDS. They had an event there last year. The Boy Scouts of America also uses the pool to certify and test for badges. The School for the Deaf also holds a picnic at the pool once a year, and all of these programs and organizations will need to be rehomed after the sale of the pool. For the 2018 season, there were about 100 passes that were sold, which equals about 300 members. About 25% of those people are actually non-residents who choose to come to Monroeville. They give us their money to come here because they live in communities that don't have pools. This money goes to the pool and the community. When you ask them, they'll tell you that they come to Monroeville because of the welcoming people at the public pool. Also, along with the members, the pool also admitted over 8,800 people who paid just to walk in. The value that this pool brings to the community cannot be measured by profit, but by how it brings such a diverse group of people together. If the sale of the pool is unavoidable, what can we do as a community to replace what's being taken away from us? We know that after the pool is sold, the Turnpike is not going to do anything with the land for years. Is there a way that we can continue to use the pool and the property while we all, the Turnpike included, makes the plans? We can gather sponsorships, go out into the community. Like it was said earlier, we have 2 hospitals that love to put their names on things. So we can gather sponsorships and add to the $900,000 that the pool will get. So that's all I have. I hope that you consider helping us out. We love our pool.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's everyone that I have signed in, but if anyone else would like to address council, you can approach and sign in and state your name for the record. We ask, this is for Monroeville residents, Monroeville taxpayers only.
Okay, my name is David Mintz, Monroeville resident. Actually, my family moved here in 1975, so long-time Monroeville resident who actually, for some of the reasons everybody was just talking about, Bel Air Pool is where I had my swim lessons when I was a child. The financial constraints about joining a private pool at the time made the community pool a great place to have my sister's swim lessons. So I really do support everybody who just came up, and I hope that they are successful in saving the pool for as long as possible. The pool itself being, as you know, close to something that I've been talking about for several years now with the council, as you would expect I would bring up. The well pad called the Deutsch well pad in just over the border from the Bel Air Pool, about at most 0.4 of a mile away, is being held up now because of the work of one of our fellow, with Sustainable Monroeville, one of our fellow groups, Protect Penn Township, Protect PT, is working on that. If that pad does go in, and the wells do go in only 0.4 of a mile from a pool that I hope we do save for our community to keep our community a nicer place, that would not be ideal, to say the least. One of the things as a community that we could do, as we've spoken about a lot, is do additional work on top of what we've done already. What we have done already, just to remind, this is a bigger audience than we almost ever have in these chambers, so I just want to say that over the last couple of years, working with the council, what we have been able to do is amend the December 11th, 1984 oil and gas ordinance that Monroeville has. We amended the use tables, so we, with the council obviously, the use tables so that the modern unconventional oil and gas drilling that's popularly known as fracking or hydraulic fracturing is now limited only to the M2 industrial areas of Monroeville rather than all of the zones of Monroeville as previously was stated in our use table. But on top of that, what I've come up here many times asking about is updated regulations, restrictions, basically protections for our community in that December 11th, 1984 ordinance, which did not address this subject. It addressed the old style gas drilling that we've had for over 100 years, obviously, in this area. Now, when I've come up to ask about that work to update our ordinance, the answer that I've been given all along was that we're waiting for some cases in Pennsylvania, some court cases to be settled. This has been going on. Now, don't quote me on the exact amount of time, but I've probably been asking this question well over a year. So I guess my first question is, have any of those cases been settled? Is it helping us to decide to move forward? And if they haven't, which cases are we waiting for and why are we waiting? And to add on to that is that our group has worked, along with the work that Mr. Ratcher already did on an ordinance update that was eventually pulled from consideration because there were changes made in it to change the area from M2 industrial to a conservancy area, which is under our Monroeville landfill. So we didn't want that. We wanted to keep it in M2 industrial. Eventually that updated ordinance with new restrictions that Mr. Ratcher worked on was pulled from consideration, which we didn't want that one because it was changing the fundamental change that we finally achieved. But we have worked on, with Mr. Ratcher's work that he already did, we have worked on an ordinance that we could submit, we could sit down, and we could just move forward on this before things happen that then become out of our control. And I guess my main question is, we've waited a long time, or what specific court cases in Pennsylvania are we waiting for, and can we move ahead even while waiting for those cases? But I've never been told specifically what cases we're waiting for and why. Okay, and so we can have that answer question. That question.
Do you have any other comment you want to make?
Okay, and one more comment is that the idea that we were waiting for those cases, this will be my last comment, the idea that we were waiting for those cases, obviously I have a question about, but after observing I'm not sure if it was the citizen or the council meeting of June, but there was a section, when I observed it on our YouTube that we can watch it on, it seemed that I was getting a little bit of a different tone when the question was brought up. I wasn't present, but when I watched it, it sounded like maybe some of the council people, and I'm hoping I misunderstood, specifically, if I misunderstood, please tell me, Ms. Gatos and Mr. Poach had said that it sounded like what they were saying was that they were satisfied with the current ordinance that we have, which, as I'll say for the third time, is from December 11th, 1984, and that basically we're just satisfied right now and like nothing's, there's no nothing moving forward because we're satisfied. And I thought we were really just waiting because we were waiting for some cases. So maybe I can get some answers to those questions.
Okay. You have the comments now at this point?
Sure,
okay.
yes.
Well, a couple things. The change that we made, I forget the date, you mentioned it earlier actually, where we made it restrictive to M2 industrial.
Right.
Then there was, as you mentioned, there was another ordinance that was actually more restrictive because it was going to S Conservancy, which is only one zone in Monroeville. There are 3 M2 industrial zones in Monroe, but as far as acreage, that is a smaller, more restrictive zone, was S Conservancy that we have in Monroeville. But we did, like you said, we pulled that, and there was pros and cons to both, and council was fine with leaving it at M2 industrial, which does Act 13, which regulates Marcellus Shale drilling in Pennsylvania, requires a community to have at least, you can't just ban fracking, so you have to have some spots to do this in. So I guess maybe to your question about what ended up happening, we tried to put a different ordinance in. There was some backlash from yourself and some people that
Sure,
were advocates
absolutely.
for it or against
Right.
it, and we decided to pull it. So I think that's probably why the main reason why something new hasn't been approached, because at this point, we tried to do something, it was rejected, so now we're in a holding pattern with our M2 industrial. Now, if you have documents that you would like to present to us, I mean, I would be happy to take them and we can go over them.
Yeah.
And as far as court cases that we're waiting, I think we're always looking for, what's happening in the state. And Mr. Ratcher, are there specific ones right now that we're?
Well, let me just back up a minute, because what my recollection of all this is that you, and I think it was even you, David,
Yes.
came up and said, relative to the new ordinance that we had proposed, let's hold up on everything because we're waiting to hear about a couple of cases. You were. I think you were waiting to hear about Gorsline and Frederick. And I think the reason you're waiting to hear from them, and I don't mean this disrespectfully,
Sure.
I think you thought that the courts were going to do a lot more with the application of the Environmental Rights Amendment than they actually ended up doing.
Right.
So that really is what stopped it,
Okay.
from my point of view.
So those were the cases. So then, I mean, if
Yeah, and those cases are over with.
they're over with, okay.
Yeah.
So then, I guess if I can respond, if I have the time to respond, is that with all due respect, the difference between the situation we have as we speak today and the new ordinance wasn't just the change from M2 to S1, which we didn't want. We wanted to keep it in M2, but what Mr. Ratcher had done and what we've also worked on are protections for light pollution, sound pollution, setbacks. There were a lot more protections for the community if it even stayed in M2 rather than moving to S1. So that's kind of like two different things, apples and oranges. So if we just keep it at M2, the industrial area, but still have the extra regulations that are above and beyond what we have today, those would, the community would be definitely more protected than it is as I speak right now today without moving it to S1, which for various reasons, including who owns the gas leases under the, that's a whole other subject. But it's not really a whole other subject, but we don't have that much time. If we keep it in M2 as was agreed to by this council, don't move it to S1, but have increased setbacks that are more supported by science than what we have right now, increased protections for light pollution for people that would live near one of these wells, for sound pollution, things like that that Mr. Ratcher worked on, and we're in that. But the reason we pushed back was because it was changed from what we had worked together with people from Food and Water Watch and Mr. Little, moving it so that it was just M2 industrial. That was the big change that we've had so far. To move it to S1 was another giant change that we didn't want. We didn't want that change, but we just wanted some additional protections.
Well, this is worth reconsidering and maybe bringing it back. And Mr.
Yeah.
Little, if you could maybe meet with Mr. Ratcher and maybe get an update of where our current ordinance is and what are some other things that we can do that are within the confines of Act 13, and then present it to council for consideration. Okay? Thank you, David.
Okay. Could
That will not be on the agenda for Tuesday.
No. Okay.
Once again, there's no one that's signed in front of me, so if anyone would like to address council, you could approach now and sign in. And just state your name for the record. You're a Monroeville resident.
My name is Julio Estremera, and live in Alpine Village.
Very good. Welcome.
Thank you. So during I was here at the last council meeting, and I forwarded an email to council on June 17th, and I'm hoping that everyone did receive it. Basically, to summarize it, a little bit of some of my observations from that meeting, as well as perhaps a suggestion as to what we could do in terms of filling the void when the sale of the community pool actually goes through. And I don't know if everyone read the email and saw the suggestion that I made. And I don't know, I guess the question that I have, are those suggestions viable options that the municipality can look at in terms of?
I read your email, but if you could maybe just touch on the points for everybody here.
Sure. So there's 4 pools in Monroeville, 4 private pools in Monroeville. 2 of those pools happen to lease land that the municipality owns. And I don't know the intricacies of the actual lease agreement, but there's 2 pools that don't actually own the land that the pools sit on. So my suggestion is that Monroeville would look at acquiring one of those pools and utilizing the funds from the sale, when the sale of the land and the pool is actually executed, whenever that takes place. And rather than, if a new pool, but before I go forward, now that, after Brian spoke and brought his ideas, I kind of like his idea as well. But the funds that are acquired through the sale, would it and could it be an option to go after one of those pools and enhance their facility with those funds to improve it and make one of those the community pool? And that was pretty much, what I was inquiring with the email. And I don't know if it is an option. The other questions that I have, is there a team in place or a committee that's drawing up or working with others, to come up with these alternatives or these plans? How can members of Monroeville, the citizens of Monroeville, how can members of Bel Air Pool be involved in this process? Is that a possibility? And lastly, the last thing I'd like to say is that, I expressed my desire during the last meeting that there be a plan in place prior to accepting the sale and executing the sale. So if the last thing I want to say, if I could coin the phrase, if there's no plan, there should be no sale. So, thank you.
You okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, a couple things. Well, let me, you know what we want to do? I'm going to keep the floor open for comments, and then, yes, we'll touch on some of these questions that are coming up, and we'll go through everything here. But does anyone else would like to address council at this point? Now would be your chance. Once again, you will get another opportunity a week from today at the Tuesday council meeting. You could speak about any municipal item, so if it's about the pool, that'll be on the agenda. You can certainly speak before a vote is taken. Absolutely. There will be no vote taken this evening. We do not vote at this meeting tonight, so there will be no votes taken. So if anyone wants to leave early, nothing's going to happen. We won't do it. But we will be voting a week from today. You'll have an opportunity to speak prior to that meeting. At the end of that same meeting, after votes are taken, and actually we go through, we just don't vote on this one item. We have a lot of things we go through. But after that meeting has gone through, you'll once again have another opportunity to speak about any municipal item. Okay? So seeing no further comment, we're going to close that portion of the meeting, and we'll move over to our agenda-setting meeting. And prior to getting into this, I just want to touch on a couple things here. So just so everyone's aware, as far as what council will be considering next Tuesday is if we enter into the agreement to sell the pool. It does not dictate where that money is spent or how it's spent or anything along those lines. That is something that council will consider as we move forward. There has been a committee that was set up by the deputy mayor. It's myself, Mr. Harvey, Mr. Poach. Mr. Little is also involved. We will be meeting with all of the private pools in Monroeville. Also, another pool in Monroeville is the Jewish Community Center. We have met with them as well. And there are other pools in Monroeville as well, albeit not exactly what we're talking about here. But the high school does have a pool, and certainly the wave pool is also in Monroeville. But as far as the four private pools, Haymaker, Swim Club, Gateway Heights, Park, Swim Club, and Garden City Pool. Yes, there are four. Monroeville does own the property for two of those. Nothing is off the table by any means. I have spoken with a few board members and also some of the presidents of the pools, but what we're going to be doing is having a formal meeting with the presidents of each of those pools and board members, both individually at their sites, and also we're going to have a group meeting as well and come up with solutions here. We are going to make every effort between this council, my office, the manager, our Recreation and Parks Department, to replace everything that potentially would go if, by chance, council decides to sell the pool to the Turnpike. We certainly understand all of the camps that are there, the swim club, the rentals, and we will make every effort to accommodate those, and we are close to accommodating a lot of those items already. However, there's no formal plan because this is going to take some time on all of our parts, but also, too, we have not agreed to the pool yet, to selling the pool. This is a vote that is taken a week from today. And if that does happen, that's when we really need, then that's when the funds will be decided on where they're spent and what the plan would be, because we wouldn't make a plan for something that is not happening. So we have a week to decide. Next week is whenever council will consider to vote either to sell the pool to the Turnpike, to not sell, or they could table the ordinance once again as they did this previous month. So with that, once again, you will have another opportunity to address council a week from today at our regular council meeting where this ordinance will be considered, and it'll also be on our agenda this evening as we move through our meeting. We have an executive session announcement that council conducted an executive session for personnel and litigation reasons prior to tonight's Citizens Night, beginning at 6:30 p.m. until 7 p.m. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at the July 9th, 2019 council meeting. Council, in front of you, we have our minutes from our Citizens Night meeting of June 6, 2019, our council work session of June 6, 2019, and our regular council meeting of June 11th, 2019. Are there any additions or corrections, council?
No, sir.
No, sir. And Chair, there was a couple things that, just very minor, some names misspelled from some of the speakers that we cleared up. Council, you have your report of your tax collections in front of you. Any questions or comments, council?
No, sir.
No, sir. Moving over to our list of bills and budget transfers. Mrs. Gatos, we'll start with you. Do you have any questions about the list of bills or budget transfers this evening?
I do not. Thank you.
Mr. Poach?
No, sir.
Mr. Harvey?
I talked to Mr. Little about a couple today. I'm good.
Very good. Mr.
No,
Jones?
sir.
Mr. Arsenko?
No, sir.
Mr. Duncan?
I have nothing.
Mr. Wilson?
No, sir.
And our payroll report, any questions or comments, council?
None.
No. None. Moving over to our consent agenda, we have old business, 19-1-Z AR Building Company. And the developer is here, the applicant is here. This is a public hearing item?
Yes, it is. Good evening.
Welcome. So this is I'm sorry, state your name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Jason Kambitsis,
Sir, if you come over in front of one of the microphones, thank you.
Kambitsis, Senior Vice President of AR Building Company. Address is 310 Seven Fields Boulevard, Suite 350, Seven Fields, PA, 16046.
Thank you, Jason. So if I could just read into the record. The applicant is requesting to rezone 7.78 acres of property, currently zoned C2 Business Commercial to R5 Multifamily Residential. The properties are located along Old William Penn Highway, parcel 742-P-74, Garden City Drive, parcel 742R345, and Evergreen Drive, parcel 742-P-90. This is a public hearing item. Also, just for the record, that the Planning Commission recommends approval with conditions. So it being a public hearing item, if there's anyone that is going to be speaking about this item, and that's even people from the resident, if they want to speak about this particular item, they will stand and be sworn in. And if you, Jason, you're here, if you have any other staff people with you.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone thinks they're going to be commenting on this matter, they please rise and will be sworn in. Okay? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Very good. So what we're going to do, Dr. Beck, if you could just have a seat briefly, and if we could just go through the presentation, Jason, of you and your folks, if you could present what about the development, and we'll go from there.
Okay, I'll do a little overview on us. I know
Thank
I've been here before, and I think this will probably be the last time I'm here for this. AR Building Company is a Pittsburgh-based real estate development company. We build, buy, and manage and own all of our own properties. We have over 9,000 units in 10 states. What we're here to talk about tonight is a project similar to the ones that we've come here before, 4-story multifamily elevator Class A luxury apartment buildings. What we're going to be doing tonight here is asking to rezone from commercial to residential. As I said, very similar to the buildings we've done before. These communities are all Class A communities, very open footprints, very open balconies, large floor-to-ceiling windows, brick buildings, long-standing buildings. As we've stated before, we build for our portfolio. We build for these to last for generations. So not to belabor it, but I'll bring up my
engineer Ray Gusty, and also my attorney Dave Nixon is here if he needs to discuss what we're doing tonight. So thank you.
Good evening. My name's Ray Gusty from Farragut McCarty Gray. I just briefly orient everyone where the site is. This is existing zoning map. The site is basically in the center of the exhibit. Parkway East is along, defines the north property line. Old William Penn Highway is this double line here, and on the right-hand side is Garden City Drive. As Jason has mentioned, the site is currently zoned C2 Business Commercial. It's everything in red is C2. And like I said, this center area here is the existing property. The second exhibit shows the proposed zoning, which would rezone that property to R5 multifamily residential. That would then match Evergreen Drive property across the parkway that was rezoned to R5 back in December of 2017. I think it's worth noting that the orange here is R4 multifamily residential. This is Tartan Terrace townhouse development here, and in the lower left-hand corner is Eagle Ridge Apartments, this area here, which also abuts the Parkway East. So there is multifamily zoning located nearby. And the third exhibit is our preliminary site plan. Again, the Parkway East is along the top of the drawing. Old William Penn Highways on the left-hand side actually swings down around the bottom of the sheet over to here. Party Savvy is located here, and the American Legion is located over here. So the bulk of this site is behind those two properties along Old William Penn. We're proposing a 120-unit apartment building, which has the required amount of parking spaces according to your ordinance. Showing some amenities, a swimming pool, and a small play field over here. The connection would be at there's an existing culvert that crosses Leak Run. We would need to remove that culvert and replace it with a wider culvert for two-lane traffic, to accommodate two-lane traffic. This blue, if you can see, is Leak Run, which defines part of the southern property line and actually meanders off the property at some point. But this dark green is all the vegetation we're trying to preserve within the stream valley. And the fourth exhibit is a section through the site. This heavy red line is where the section was taken. It shows the four-story apartment building and how it sits within the site. So
How many units?
Approximately 120. It's still preliminary yet, but that's what we can fit.
Is there one in and one out? One way in, one way out?
Yes.
Is that where the culvert
Yes.
is now that you're going to change? Okay.
That's the only crossing. We have to cross the Leak Run. So.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions, we'll try and answer.
You can't circle the building.
Not at this time. I mean, that's still something we'd have to look at.
Well, I'm concerned emergency vehicle-wise, that's all.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Harvey.
Mr. Hugus, with our, as far as code goes, as far as sprinklers, emergency vehicles,
We get into that stuff at site plan.
Okay.
You're still talking about a rezoning.
Yeah.
When they submit the plans for a site plan application, that's when we get into the details of this.
Very good.
You know, it's very similar with the other two projects they already have approved. That's when we get into those things.
Are they going to look similar, like the exterior and all that you showed us on the previous?
Yes, they will be very similar. You know, the only difference is each building is different in the sense that it sits on the site a little differently.
Right.
But the fit, the finish, the materials
Yeah,
are all
so
the
everything
same.
will kind of blend in, like,
Yes.
yeah, because they're
Yeah.
pretty close.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
they are.
so
And-
it would be nice if they kind of looked,
Yeah.
you know.
You're going to see both of them from the Parkway.
right.
And so we don't want one to look different than the other.
Thank you.
one, so,
That's what I was concerned about.
And once
Thank
again,
you.
that'd be something that they would present at the site
Yeah,
plan.
but it's nice to know ahead of time.
Yeah, that's
Thank
where we're
you.
at.
Do you gentlemen have anything else to say about the rezoning, about what we're talking about this evening? Anything else to add? Okay. So anyone from the public who wanted to ask questions about this? Dr. Beck, I believe you had something?
meet the requirements, there's a state law.
Yeah, Alyssa Beck, Sustainable Monroeville. So I like to ask developers about their plans for a regenerative future. So do you have any plans to grow food on your rooftop or put solar panels up there, or would you consider it, perhaps?
I know we.
If you come to the microphone.
I'll come to the
great.
microphone.
And also, too, I
You're
mean,
good right here.
I think Jason's probably going to answer your question, but we try to keep the questions to actually rezoning, because that's what we're going to be talking about. But
Well,
we're-
if we're rezoning for 100 units and moving to residential, there's going to be a lot of pressure with 100 new residents on that property. And so it would be really cool if developers would come in here with a plan for permeable pavement that allows water to flow through the infrastructure rather than running off into our stream that's right along the border of the property, for example.
I know we've spoken about this before on a different project. In regards to solar, we have looked at it on other projects. It just still doesn't make sense for us to do that.
Have you looked at it recently?
Yes. It still doesn't, from a financial perspective, it still doesn't make sense.
Do you know about community solar? Would you be willing to
I do.
investigate
You
that?
sign a 30-year lease for somebody else to put solar on your roof. It's
You-
not something we're comfortable doing.
It's not comfortable?
No. And then in regards to growing food, you hold a huge liability on a rental property to grow food that other people come and eat. So, I'm personally not against that, but from a liability perspective, from a community perspective, that's not something people have ever asked for in anything that we have, so.
I usually ask those kinds of questions.
No, I understand that, that's fine. And then permeable pavement, we meet or exceed the codes. I know we've had big storm scepter systems that catch the water and slow it down prior to getting into any of the streams. I know we have a large catchment system at Evergreen across the highway at a very high expense, so the water isn't just pouring off into the stream. So it actually gets slowed down, it goes through multiple chambers. We do that in a place where we don't have a pond, we don't have any other means to catch the water. Here, I don't know exactly where we're going to end up. It's not fully engineered from that perspective, but if we need to do that, we do that when we need it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jason. And yes, once again, those are site plan questions, but these kind of developments, they would have to follow our stormwater management guidelines as far as stormwater retention, things of that nature, as Jason mentioned. And that's something that we will cross whenever we get to the site plan. Mr. Wielden, there was some conditions that you mentioned about, or it's mentioned about the Planning Commission. They approved with conditions.
It's just the standard conditions that you normally get attached with all land development applications, nothing outstanding.
Okay, very good. Anyone else like to speak about this before we close the public hearing? We're going to close the public hearing portion. Council, does anyone have any other questions or comments about this item?
No, sir.
Very good. This will be considered on Tuesday. Moving over to new business, 19-3-SUB.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Gen 3 surveying. Mr. Little, if you would.
Yeah, applicant is requesting a preliminary and final subdivision approval of tax parcels 741S389 and 741S216. Applicant proposes to combine the two lots to create one lot totaling 2.586 acres. The address of the property is located at 422 Hazel Drive in the R2 one-family residential zoning district. And the Planning Commission has recommended approval with conditions.
Welcome. Can you state your name for the record, please?
My name's Ray Shoemaker. I live at 422 Hazel Drive in Monroeville, and I'm making the request.
Very good.
Here is a plan of my lot currently. What I want to do is I have multiple lots there. I would like to consolidate them so that they're all in one piece of property, also with the hopes of working out something with the right-of-way on there. I don't plan on expanding my house or building multiple houses or doing anything with it. I just would like to get all my lots together.
If you could just orient us real quick on the map, so if you just outline like where your current properties are.
So my current property is everything in yellow. There's just two separate lots. One is a smaller lot. I wanted to add that to the bigger lot.
It's just that little rectangle at the
Yes.
bottom you're pointing out?
Yes.
Okay. Council, any questions?
Good.
Any issues from Planning Commission or from
No, the plan's been reviewed by the municipality and our engineer, and all comments have been addressed.
Very good. We'll consider this on Tuesday. Thank you. Next item, 19-2-C, Extendnet Systems Incorporated, Mr. Little.
Okay, applicant is requesting a conditional use approval. This will be a public hearing. Approval pursuant to ordinance number 2635, section 401.55.B, 1A of the Monroeville zoning ordinance, number 1443, as amended to replace an existing utility pole and install an antenna and equipment on the utility pole. The pole is located at 4110 William Penn Highway and identified as a pole number P.325402 in the C2 Business Zoning Commercial Zoning District. Planning Commission recommends approval with conditions.
Very good. So welcome. If you state your name for the record, please.
Nicole Talick, project manager from NBNC.
Hi, Nicole. And then once again, this is a public hearing item. If there's anyone in the audience that wants to question this or speak about this or thinks they're going to speak about this, now would be your time to stand up. Okay, so I'll swear you in. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And if you could just go ahead with your presentation and explain what you're what you're proposing here, please.
Extendnet is proposing to replace the wooden pole, I believe. Yes, the existing wooden pole with a new class 3 45-foot wooden utility pole and add one small cell antenna and ancillary telecommunications equipment at the site.
In the
What's the
same
antenna?
spot?
Yes.
What's the antenna for?
The antenna is to amplify this coverage for the mall area,
For, what? I'm sorry?
for the surrounding mall area. Yeah.
So you do have the address here, but if, and maybe you don't have this, maybe our staff does. Could you orient us where roughly that address is?
It's in the back of Miracle Mile, where the salt bins are, behind the bank, on the Lowe's side. Napoli's Pizza.
Oh.
It's in the
Okay,
back.
back by DSW.
Oh, yeah.
DSW.
Oh, everybody.
Everybody now knows where we're at.
We're all on the same page. Thank you. Council, any questions?
No, so you're just taking out an old wooden pole and putting in a newer one with an antenna on the top?
Correct.
That's all?
Yep.
Okay.
And we have a photograph of one that was replaced within the last year. Most people don't even recognize it. It just looks like a little cylinder on top of a pole.
Picture.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Ratcher, you had a question?
What's the difference in height between the existing pole and the pole you intend to put in?
The existing pole is 29 feet. The replacement pole is 40 feet.
Okay, so about 11 feet more.
Correct.
Is all of the equipment located on top of the pole? Is there ground-based equipment?
So it's not ground-based. There's a small, I don't want to say, equipment that not hangs, but is attached to the side of the pole as well as inside the pole itself.
What elevation on the pole would that be roughly?
I have plans right here. The equipment will be about 17 feet off the ground.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Council, anything else?
I have a
Mr. Wilson.
question. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the purpose of the antenna.
It is to amplify the coverage in the area.
What type of coverage?
Cell phone coverage.
Pardon me?
Cell phone coverage? Yes.
Okay, so is this Verizon or AT&T or?
So Extendnet is a public utility company. Any carrier could technically amplify their signal through them, so they will be able to add on any carrier that wants to use that equipment there.
Okay, so Verizon or AT&T will have to purchase the time for that, or?
They'll have to apply through Extendnet and lease through Extendnet to be able to use that, but it can be used.
How often does Verizon or AT&T use your systems?
They come to Extendnet to be able to use it, so they will use it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions, council? Nope. Thank you, Nicole. We'll consider this on Tuesday, a week from today. Council, we're going to move over to our resolutions. We have 3 this evening. Mr. Little, please.
Yeah, a couple, 3 housekeeping items, really. A resolution approving the disposition of records as set forth in the Municipal Records Manual. It's usually about May or June, a little late this year, getting all our records together. financial records and disposing of those ones under the Municipal Records Act manual that we can dispose of. Any questions on that, Council? Okay, second one is a resolution recognizing the Monroeville Foundation as a civic and service association under the Local Options Small Games of Chance Act as amended. This is for the Monroeville Community Day, as Mrs. Izok and Mr. Groover were just here, to have 50/50 raffle, and also we're having the Experience Monroeville raffle. And all of the information on this under the act has been given to our solicitor, Mr. Ratcher. And any questions or anything on that, Council?
Slot machines?
Next.
Okay, this is a resolution adopting the Maui Residential Development Sewage Planning Module, which was a development, I think, when did we approve that, Paul? A couple months ago, I believe.
It's just a single-family home being built off of Kaiser Lane.
Okay, all right.
Where's it being built at?
Kaiser Lane at the
Oh, this is-
station
okay.
Haymaker split.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, that's a big house.
Any problems from your department?
No.
Questions, council?
Nope.
Nope. Very good. Moving over to ordinances, we have one ordinance to consider next Tuesday. Mr. Ratcher, please.
This is an ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville authorizing, it should say, the appropriate parties to enter into an agreement to sell 10.42 acres of municipal property known as the Bel Air Swimming Pool to the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission for the purpose of widening the Pennsylvania Turnpike in Monroeville. This is an item that's currently on the table, and at Tuesday's meeting, council, of course, will have the option to leave it on the table or to bring it off the table and vote it up or down.
Very good. Any comments, council?
No.
We're going to move over to our reports from our municipal staff. Mr. Ratcher, if you have the floor, you anything else?
I have one item for council, Mayor. I'm seeking permission to add an additional resolution to the agenda. The Municipality of Monroeville sewage system, a very small part of it in what would be the eastern part of our community, is not connected into our entire system. It's connected into the system of the Franklin Township Municipal Sanitary Authority, which is called FTMSA for short. FTMSA is currently, it involves both a small portion of the Monroeville system, Export, Murraysville, Salem, Delmont, Penn Township. That system is currently out of compliance with DEP regulations related to stormwater overflows and sewage overflows and the like, because a very small portion of Monroeville's system drains into that system. We have to be part of any consent agreement that FTMSA enters into with the DEP. We've been working probably for about the past 6 months, all the municipalities I mentioned, to come up with a consent agreement with the DEP to set forth a plan as to how FTMSA is going to comply with the state and federal regulations. And so we now have an agreement that requires the approval of each of the member municipalities. So I'm asking for council's consent to add a resolution to the resolutions already on the agenda so that Monroeville can act on that as a party to the agreement.
Council, any issues or concerns?
Makes sense.
Very good.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ratcher. Mr. Little, you have a few items.
Yeah, the first item, I'm going to defer to Councilman Johns. I don't want to steal your thunder under your report. Go ahead, Mr. Johns. You want to talk about the July 4th parade?
The parade is going on as scheduled Thursday at 9 a.m. sharp, starting from the Miracle Mile down to the mall. There'll be we have a lot of entries, close to 100. We're going to have our 4K, 5K / walk, run. I'm not sure exactly how many participants we have. A lot of them wait till the last minute. We had 25 or so registered prior to about a week ago. And that's going to leave approximately at 8:45 ahead of the parade. I've had the opportunity again to ask Kelly Sasso from Channel 4. She's going to be here, and she's going to MC our parade again this year, which is, I think, a good thing.
Nice.
And then after that, I just spoke to the folks from the fireworks company. They're setting up, in fact, they're going to be in town tomorrow setting some of their stuff up down behind the mall annex, and it takes them a while to get ready. They bring in a pretty big crew. And barring any weather again this year, let's hope not. 9:30, I want to say 9:30 sharp, but that's not true. They try to get it as close to dark, because sometimes at 9:30 it's not quite dark yet.
Right.
So right around 9:30, we're going to go. And that's
Barring electrical storm.
barring electrical storms.
Yes.
Very important. You know, a lot of people,
Yes.
last year we shut it down twice, and it wasn't easy to do. But when you talk, I've learned a lot with these guys. When there's sparks up in the air, he has explained to me how tragic it would be if lightning would come down. If you would ever see, I have some pictures one of these days, I'll show you guys, of the stuff that's set up back here. It's kind of scary looking. The other side of that coin is if it rains, they will set them off. And it's a matter of Jay, his name is Jay, he's the guy that pushes all the buttons. He talks to me repeatedly, and it's like, Jimmy, what do you think? What do you want to do? And it's back and forth. Well, once it starts lightning, the answer is no. He calls it, we're done. But if it's raining, drizzling, it's not a big deal. If it starts raining hard, what happens when you set them up? It creates a big cloud of dust, smoke, whatever you want to say, and you can't really see anything. So let's just hope for good weather.
Yeah.
Amen.
Good deal.
Okay.
Nice work, Mr. Johns.
Yeah.
They put a lot of work into the
Yes,
committee.
yes.
And a big thanks to our committee as well, who puts a
A
lot
lot
of
of
work.
folks on the committee, and they do a great job.
Absolutely.
Good.
Mr. Little.
Okay, the community park courts.
That's my thunder, sir.
Oh, that is?
That's my park.
Community park courts? I'll leave
Would
it
you like
that
to
way.
present it?
I have
I'll
it
leave
pulled
it
up
there.
on my
That's a-
phone.
Oh, okay, all right.
I've
no.
been-
We probably have
Well-
pictures of it.
Yeah,
well,
Joe has pictures.
Yeah, oh, good.
All right, okay. All right, we'll move on. We have received the CITF grant of $75,000 for Evergreen Park that Mr. Estock put in and worked on, going back to last year. So I want to let council and the public know of that. We're going to be refurbishing. We have refurbished Evergreen Park last year with taking out some of the, I think, rotted timbers that were there, but we're going to be doing additional work there with the playground structure with that $75,000. So that's good news.
That's a big thank you to Senator Brewster's office, who helped us get that funding.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and as I've mentioned the last month or so, we're going to have another hazardous and electronic waste collection, which is going to be July 20th at the Public Works Building at 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., and I encourage you to register. There's a link on our website. So register for that if you want to get rid of any kind of old paint, any electronic equipment, or items of that nature. And also, if we've mentioned here that previously, the Community Day will be July 27th at 9, beginning on Saturday, beginning at 9 o'clock with the 5K race, walk and run. And the Community Day itself will begin at 11 o'clock and go throughout the day. And then we have a singer, Nate Walker, who's an American Idol contestant from the Pittsburgh area at 5 o'clock at the Tall Trees Amphitheater. Jazz Festival is on August the 17th. That starts at 2 o'clock and runs to about dusk. And we have 4 jazz, and you can see the flyer on there. We have Kinda Blue, Still Town Horns, the Benny Benack Band, and the Pittsburgh Jazz Orchestra. So that's a pretty good lineup. And also the Monroeville Foundation Golf Outing is Friday, September the 13th. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Mr. Hugus, anything this evening?
No, I deferred my time to Tim.
Okay. Very good.
Oh, that was good.
I like that.
Ms. Rock, I know you had a presentation for our mid-year financial update, but we're going to hold that
hold
for
it
Tuesday.
on Tuesday,
Get
correct.
the night off. Do you have anything else you want to add for this evening?
No, nothing.
Very good. So we'll be ready for you on Tuesday.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And moving over to our reports of our council members, Mrs. Gatos, if you would like to talk about the courts, we'll start off with that.
Yeah, I do want to talk about the courts. We do have pictures to show?
Yeah, Joe.
There we go.
That's great.
We finished the tennis courts and the basketball courts and the pickleball courts. And this is a picture of them up at the park, and they've turned out beautifully. They're ready to be used. I've been questioned a lot as to what is pickleball. It's kind of like a paddle ball, where you use paddles and the balls, like a bigger form of badminton, but on a court. So it's kind of cool. There's teams, they have competitions. It's a new thing that's kind of going around and maybe something people would be interested in getting involved in. But as far as our courts, they've taken a little bit of time, but they are done, they're ready. Please enjoy them. They are for the community. So, and happy 4th and happy safe 4th to everyone. That's all I have.
Great. Mr. Poach.
First of all, I understand Mrs. Gatos will be applying for work at ESPN shortly for the work on paddleball. It was a great event at the library this weekend. Also, it was crafts. I don't do crafts. My wife went on my behalf for Star Wars. It was well attended and filled the entire place up for about 3 hours. It was a terrific event that went on this weekend. And finally, also, I wanted to take a second to wish a former council member and a friend of mine and fellow fireman as well, Harold Katofsky. I hope he's feeling better. He's been out sick for a little while. We did hear from him earlier this evening, so I get better, Harold. I hope you start to see you back out there again. He's usually pretty instrumental with Mr. Johns on the 4th of July.
Yeah, he is. He's the key to fits the lock.
Yeah, there you go, to make that happen as well. So.
Well, he's good.
He's not going to be there.
Yep, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Poach.
He's not going to be there.
Mr. Harvey.
Aw, poor Harold.
I reiterate what Mr. Poach said. I talked to Mr. Katowski today, and unfortunately, I couldn't get a chance to visit him in the hospital because when I learned he was in there, I was leaving out of town. He is home, doing better, and I hope he makes full recovery. He was not doing well for a while, and he sounded good today. The other thing is that I wanted to reiterate that the deputy mayor has appointed myself and Mr. Poach, along with the mayor and manager, to work on the community pool issue, and I wanted to promise the residents that we have all intentions of working with the residents in the community pools, the 4 community pools, to resolve this issue should that sale proceed. We're not going to leave it go. We're not going to leave it blank. And I'm all in. So I just wanted to let everybody know that you are not forgotten, the teams aren't forgotten, and we'll work very hard on this, should that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. And yes, one thing I do to follow up on Mr. Harvey's comment real quickly here. I failed to mention earlier, of course, we certainly are going to be speaking to the Barracudas team as well. They'll be involved with the discussions as well. I've talked to, Brody and I have emailed back and forth, but certainly with these discussions with the private pools, that Brody and any coaches you want to bring along will certainly be in the discussions as well, absolutely. But that is only if this ordinance is voted in the affirmative a week from today, or if it's tabled and voted for the affirmative down the road, so.
Mayor, I forgot one other thing.
Go ahead.
Just happened today. When myself and the mayor were over visiting the JCC Park, the large swimming pool off Rosecrest Drive, one of the camp supervisors made a request of me to get a medical helicopter to land there for the kids to see, and it's going to happen Monday. So, any of you that want to come over and see it, but if everything else goes right at 10 a.m. Monday, there will be a medical helicopter landing at JCC Park.
Kids love it, that's for sure. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Mr. Johns.
Yes, sir. You know, I'd like to take a couple minutes if I can. Everybody knows occasionally I'm up here yakking about parking. I'm going to do it again briefly. Joe, could you do me a favor? Do you have that picture down there that I sent you?
Yeah, Josie.
Got it. That's one. Picture one.
Yeah, the van, yes.
There it is.
What I want to show you here briefly, you know, that van that you can see sitting on the street, it's taking up half the road. Now, that's real close. There's a sign there. There's 2 pictures of it. There's a sign there. He's parked next to it, and right to the left.
The other one picture?
Yeah, please. At any rate, while she's looking for it.
And there's
there.
penguins
There
on
it
the
is.
street.
There it is. I saw the
I
penguin.
like the penguin.
The point I'm trying to make, parking in Monroeville, I've been here for about 50 years, and a lot of people don't realize, I'm not picking on Turnpike Gardens, it's all of Monroeville. Everybody sitting up here has parking problems, I'm well aware of that. But what a lot of people don't realize, Turnpike Gardens is like a really large cul-de-sac. There's a way in and a way out. And when you turn in at the light in West Patty, and you can go down a little wee bit, there's Maria Lane. Once you get back in there, you're in there. You got to come back out the same way you went in. You can't escape anywhere else. Consequently, what happens an awful lot is if you've ever been over there during rush hour, the traffic gets backed up so bad, you get people that run familiar, they hurry up, cut through there, thinking they're going to sneak to the back of the plant and get down out of the way from the traffic. It doesn't happen. It's a mile and a tenth to the back of that plant. That particular van sitting right there, he's a resident. He lives 3/10 of a mile from where that van is parked. Now, it was there for 3 days. And 2 of those days, I didn't see it, but people came to me, cars coming down the street, they think he's stopped, they go out around him, the car's coming the other way, screeching tires. Well, on Sunday, I happened to be in my driveway doing something, and here comes a lady coming down the street, and the sidewalk that you see there goes by the park. She's a little girl on a bicycle, probably 5 years old, with training wheels. She's behind her pulling a wagon. Coming down the street, they're coming towards this van. This little girl's 10 feet in front of her mother. She can't go. She goes out like this as I'm standing there. Here comes a car down the street doing about 40 miles an hour, slides sideways and almost runs a little girl over. Point I'm trying to make to Monroeville. I understand it. I mean, 2 days ago, right up the street from me, there had to be 40 cars on the road, both sides. They have a party. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what you're due. This kind of stuff doesn't have to exist in this community. It really doesn't. People, if you got somewhere, my goodness, think about what you're doing. I'm done. I hate to keep harping on it, but it's terrible.
It doesn't
with
change
what these
that.
people do with this parking. Harold, get better. I'm done.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Mr. Arcinko.
Yeah, I have a few items, and obviously, Harold, you're a good friend, and please do get better, and I apologize for not visiting you at the hospital as well. As you all know, the 4th of July is coming up this Thursday, and please take some time and explain to your kids what the 4th of July really means. I think we've kind of lost some of that flavor. Think about our military personnel that are currently serving, our veterans, our police, fire, EMS. Because of all these folks, we can celebrate our independence. Please take some time to explain that to our children. On the pool issue, I want to sincerely tell all of you, I appreciate all your comments. I didn't know some of the things that you all explained, and especially I knew you'd had a lot of activities there. I didn't realize you had that many, and I only have myself to blame if I don't know that. So you're giving me a lot of thought on that as well, and I think some of your suggestions, I'm going to commend the committee. They really are going to work hard on it, and you will be informed of any decisions that they can come up with the 4 various pools, as well as the JCC Park. I have a couple other announcements on some of the county stuff that I'm involved in. You all may not know that Allegheny County Boroughs Association, we're in support of legislation that for municipalities with at least 3,500 people or more has to pay for their state police coverage. Right now, you have communities like Hempfield with a population over 40,000, maybe even closer to 50. They pay nothing. You and I are helping pay for their police protection, which is crazy. So I'm hoping that this passes. If you're interested in the bill, it's Resolution 2019-1, and we are working really hard to make sure that happens. The second issue that we have is that we're pushing, if they're going to do the governor's proposing the natural gas tax, or severance tax, if you will, on the natural gas fund. We're certainly in support of if they're going to do it. Make sure it's for local impact fees so that don't get eliminated, and also for infrastructure for the whole state. Forgive me for my voice, I'm under the weather, really bad. And the last issue I'd like to bring up is that, as you well know, the boroughs, like us, have to pay for any underground work that the county does as far as for drainage and stuff. But townships don't. Now, I don't know what the hell the difference is between a township and a borough. We're all residents, and we're fighting that as well. Like right now, if they would do some work on any of the state roads, we would have to pay for some of their work, which is crazy, but a township don't. Especially like if it's for water and all that stuff. So I'll keep you abreast of all that. And last but not least, on the radar, I don't know how you all feel, but there is a big push for the radar to come down to local. And if you don't know, we're the only state in the union that does not allow local police to do that. And I think that's a valuable tool because, as Mr. John said, even a little area like that, you got people going 40, 50 mile an hour. That's crazy. And we got kids everywhere. There are kids on my street. I'm sure there's kids on your street, so.
The Senate passed the bill 49-1,
Did it get passed? I didn't hear that yet.
but it has to go into the full House after,
Well, right, I
after the
didn't
summer.
think, the House didn't, I knew it was in the House. Thank you for that, Mr. Harvey. With that, please enjoy the 4th. Please take the time to explain it to the kids what it really means. Have a great 4th of July.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Arsenko. Mr. Duncan.
Yeah, I just have real quick, I'd like to send out congratulations to Dom LaGorga on his retirement.
Oh, yeah, I forgot
He's
about
kept the
that.
lights on in Monroeville for many years.
Amen.
He was our street light guy.
Literally kept them on.
And good luck to Harold, I hope you feel better. That's all I have.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a couple things. I want to thank Mike Strom and his group over at the animal shelter. On Sunday, they held a doggy wash, and they had 49 dogs come to the doggy wash, and they made $1,423.
Wow.
And that'll go toward buying food for the animals and meds for the animals and different things like that. And they work hard at working on different types of events for that. Also, there's going to be a car cruise at Papa Rocks. That'll be in 2 weeks on Saturday, so I'm trying to think of the date, but I can't think of the date.
20th?
Pardon me?
Is it the 20th?
The 20th, thank you. And Beverly Reinhardt, she's our horticulturalist in Monroeville. And Beverly does the entrances to Garden City for the Garden City residents. And she does this as a volunteer. She does a wonderful job. Bev, thanks so much. Dom LaGorga, good luck, buddy. I know you'll enjoy your retirement. Now I have to talk about the senior center. In April, the senior center, they receive funding, they receive revenue from Silver Sneakers program. And they had 1,181 members of the Silver Sneakers program in April. And the payment of from that was $5,473. The total for April that they have received for through April is $20,394.75. So then we go into May, and we have in May there are 1,196 Silver Sneakers members, and the May payment was $48.91 for a total of $25,286. Now, these funds, these Silver Sneakers funds, go directly to the municipality. They go to the general budget. So I just wanted to remind the folks that they're really paying their way over there, and they're doing a wonderful job. I can't tell you how great they are over there. I can tell you, but then I want to thank Mr. Johns for his hard work in your committee with the 4th of July event, the parade, the fireworks. Harold, I'm hoping you get better. The last time I saw you, you were still recovering. and it's time to get better. God bless. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
One other thing, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I heard a few laughs about my voice. I know I sound like Frogman regularly, but
You
it's
do.
a little bit worse today, so I do apologize.
Your Palmolive, huh?
Yeah, right.
I think you sound like Kermit.
I just want to thank everyone that came out here this evening to speak. These decisions are never easy, and we appreciate the input from the community. It's very valuable, and it's very, very helpful. So we appreciate that. Congratulations to Dom, and we appreciate his service to our community and wish him the best with his retirement. Big thank you once again to Mr. Johns and the 4th of July Committee for the parade and for the fireworks. That committee, they do a lot of work and put on a great show, and it's a nice event. And we encourage everyone to come out for the parade and stick around and come back out for the evening time for the fireworks. And with that, I will seek a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you and good night.
Good day.